Hey everybody, and welcome to the Week 13 edition of the EdjSports Coach Rankings. I'm Ian O'Connor, joined by Frank Frigo, and we'll start off today by looking at our top 3 coaches, which remain the same this week, except we have a tie for number 3 now. And 3 of these top 4 are the top 3 teams in our Football Outsiders DVOA metric. And number 1 overall is Baltimore's John Harbaugh, number 2 is Kyle Shanahan, and the Ravens of 49ers actually combined for 5 fourth down go decisions this past week in their game against each other, 3 by the Ravens and 2 by the 49ers. And Bill Belichick is still number 3, but this week he's joined by Mike Zimmer of Minnesota, who moves up into a tie. Now today we're going to take a look at some coaches in the middle of the pack, 3 specifically, that are less aggressive than what we might think or what we want them to be. And at number 15 is Pete Carroll of Seattle.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's number 15 overall, but actually kind of surprisingly, he's number 30 in our critical call index or our CCI rankings, and number 4 in the overall EPI rank based on the strength of the team. So, for example, this past Monday, he had our largest error of the week against Minnesota. They were up 4 points with 3.5 minutes left in the game on their own 45-yard line. And you got to remember, Seattle's number 2 in pass offense, and Minnesota was only number 16 in pass defense. So the punting in this situation we had as a 12.2% error. And given his powerful offense, we'd expect them to convert this fourth down probably about 50 to 55% of the time. So this was a pretty big error.
And you know, Pete Carroll's similar to what we saw with Sean McVay last year, especially in the Super Bowl. He's got this great offense, but he appears afraid to use it on fourth downs, and that could catch up to him in the playoffs this year. And speaking of Sean McVay, tied for 18th is Sean McVay.
Yeah, so last season on their Super Bowl run, we were a little bit skeptical of his risk management, even though they had a very good result, particularly with this very high-powered offense. But this year, he's number 29 in our critical call index and number 11 in the overall EPI. And they just haven't been operating with the same level of octane that they did last year. In fact, in this recent game with the Ravens, they really threw in the surrender flag a couple of times. Didn't matter a lot in terms of impact on GWC or game-winning chance, but just an indication of the way he's thinking about things and being somewhat conservative in his play calling.
And coming in tied at number 20 is Frank Reich of Indianapolis. Now, we think of Reich as an aggressive play caller. He does have our number 1 overall best decision this season. So why is he coming so low this week?
Well, Frank Reich's a bit of an enigma. He comes out of the Philadelphia system with Doug Peterson, where he witnessed a lot of really good and successful aggressive play calling. But we've seen in recent weeks that he's given up almost 20% in GWC, which is really significant when you think that an average coach gives up about 4.9% errors per game. So against Houston in Week 12, he gave up 11%. Jacksonville in Week 11, 8%. So there seems to be a bit of a balance there that for some of the really good aggressive decisions he makes, he does have lapses of judgment at times.
Now, it's important to keep in mind that our scope includes in-game decision-making from this season only. So as teams face these tougher tests through the remainder of this season, you will see some fluidity in these rankings. So be sure to keep an eye out for the next EdjSports Coach Rankings, and don't forget to follow us on social media at EdjSports and Football Outsiders.